Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with another hot take. This time it's about Jeffrey Epstein again. What is up with this guy? Um, you know, Epstein just goes to show you when you do something horrible enough, it's like evil leaves a trail behind that doesn't just follow you in the immediate, but like far into the future. It's just incredible. This guy uh, caused a lot of people harm, and you know, I think he himself had to be a messed up guy. I mean, I think you have to be messed up to do what he did, and think, you know, this is somehow good for society, which I don't think he. Well, I guess maybe he thought that in his own weird way, but this is the latest news on Epstein. So, who who by the way didn't kill himself. Apparently, his banker, the guy who was in charge of, he had worked for, I believe it was Citibank, I think it was called, CITI, that bank. He had worked for them, and then was at Deutsche Bank, I think it's called. Anyhow, just Google Epstein's banker, and the whole article will pop up. I'm not quoting it exactly correctly, but they found him dead, hung. Okay, so they found him. I believe it was Thanksgiving or the day after, and they're calling it a suicide. He was in L.A. I guess that's where he lived. So, you know, did this guy kill himself? I think it's likely, because if Epstein, the probe on Epstein is still ongoing, and even though there's a lot of people connected to it, a lot of big names, those people are being protected. Those people will not, really see any kind of harm come to them. But in order for that to happen, there has to be a scapegoat, a guy, or probably Epstein's little cohort there, who they've talked about, who eventually is going to be caught and blamed for everything. So there'd be a symbol or someone that gets punished for all Epstein's crimes. And I think this banker probably knew it was gonna be him, or could be him, certainly. And I think if he did kill himself, which I think is likely, he probably did it because Epstein had the goods on him too. Um, you know, Epstein had to have his, all his residents top to bottom with cameras everywhere. I mean, and they can make cameras incredibly small these days. These pinhole cameras that you'll never find. It's not like in the 80s where you would have seen like a flashing light somewhere. They make cameras now. They can see in the dark. They can see everything. They're incredible. The cameras they have, the technology now is just insanely advanced, and so the quality of the video is very high, even in the lowest lighting conditions, and the cameras are incredibly small. So, and you're talking about people who were running in these rich circles who don't expect this kind of thing normally. I mean, you have to imagine yourself as being rich, like so rich that you've lived that life your entire life. Money just makes things go away. All your problems disappear, essentially. Not all your problems, but you know what I mean. Like the problems the rest of us have, none of that is ever a problem. You go out and your car breaks down. That's not a problem for you if you're rich, right? First off, your car probably doesn't break down, and even if it does, you just like get another car. You just grab an Uber and like have one of your guys handle the car repair and yell at him. And you actually get upset when something like that happens because you're so rich and having so much fun that the moment it stops for any reason, you get pissed off. I mean, that's the way it would be, right? Logically. I'm just sort of taking this to the logical conclusion, not that I've ever really been rich. you know, in any real sense. So, I mean, you just have to imagine it, right? That you just live a life of luxury all the time. Now, not every rich person's exactly the same, but, you know, having that kind of access and money uh, makes you soft. It's not like you're going to. That's why, you know, a lot of rich people get fat. You know, if they don't work out and have a little bit of a discipline for themselves, why wouldn't you get fat? You're probably eating awesome food. You can go to a restaurant anytime. Restaurants are not a good place if you're on a diet. I mean, there is a reason the food is delicious. My cousin worked in the kitchen of a place one time, and he was prepping like a giant thing of spaghetti sauce, and he was moving a bunch of stuff around in the kitchen, including this giant 1 pound block of butter. And as he was moving it across, you know, the line gets pretty busy, he dropped the entire pound of butter. It wasn't wrapped, but it went right into the sauce. And the sauce was hot, so it almost instantly melted. And like a 1 pound of butter in the sauce. He hadn't intended for that to happen. And then when it did, he was like, oh well. So he stirred up the sauce with a pound of butter in it and served it, and everybody raved about it. Thought it was the best sauce they ever had. Yeah, I guess so. There was an extra pound of butter in the sauce. It must have been delicious. But, I mean, people don't realize that, you know. That's like you watch every chef show, right? And they say, well, you gotta add a pinch of salt. And like the chef will like reach into the salt and grab like this giant pinch and go, like you say to yourself, that's like half a shaker of salt. And that's why the food tastes so good, because they're really seasoning it and it's a lot of salt. So when you go to a restaurant, and you can do that when you're rich, and why not? You're gonna get fat. So anyhow, I've gotten off on a huge tangent. We're talking about Epstein's banker. Epstein's banker, you know, hangs himself. And my guess would be that Epstein had something on him that eventually would come to light. And he realizes that he's not one of these people, you know, like Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, there's no way they're going to disgrace him. It's just no way. There are people who would just, if they found the tape of Clinton, say, banging an underage girl, they would say, we have to destroy this. We can't allow a foreman of the President of the United States to be confirmed as a pedophile or whatever. Not that I think that even happened. I'm not suggesting that happened. Just pump the brakes on your conspiracy theories. But what I'm saying is, even if it did, you're never going to know about it, because people just won't allow stuff like that to come out. They just feel like, well, the country will be harmed in some way, which isn't true. Isn't true at all. I mean, it would certainly look bad for a while and people would be outraged, but you know, it's to me, it's always better that the truth comes out. You know, especially when you're talking about someone who's done something terrible like this. So I think this guy probably figured, like, there's no way out. You know, he doesn't have the protections of a Bill Clinton or whomever. He doesn't have, like, you know, tons and tons of money. And according to the article anyway, he was approving loans, you know, for Epstein all day long. Like, you know, big time loans. Millions and millions of dollars. And Epstein actually defaulted on the loans on the first bank, and yet this guy was still able to approve him for new loans in the new bank. See, that's what happens when you get to that level. When you're considered like in with the millionaires and the business guys who are also in. You could always get a loan from somebody. You're a big name, seemingly. You know, Epstein was considered a billionaire who jetted all over the world. That easily impresses bank guys. It just does. It easily impresses most people. Like, you see a guy get off a private jet, and he's in a limo, and he's got beautiful women with him, and he's got expensive clothes, and he comes to your bank, and he's just like, yeah, I need a couple of million for this deal, and he's had deals before, and he owns an island, and all these things. People tend to just assume stuff. And, they're not going to check everything because, again, rich people, they live a life of luxury. They don't want any inconveniences. What, you're going to make me fill out all this paperwork? My lawyers can take care of it. Come on, do we have a deal or not, buddy? I got to go get my spa treatment and then fly to France and eat chocolate or whatever the hell I'm doing. I mean, that's the way these guys live. They could just do whatever the hell they want. So I think a lot of people in general who don't have that money are just easily bought and impressed by this money. They're bought in simply being in the glow of a rich person, and a rich person's throwing around money and you're just like, wow, I wish I had that money. And, there's always that, allure of like, well, if I hang out with this guy and I'm really nice to him, maybe he'll give me some of that money. Maybe I could work for him. And, this guy gave Epstein tons and tons of loans. So he was probably up the creek with those too. I mean, if he was being blackmailed, maybe he did the math and figured, well, I'd rather go to jail for giving Epstein bad loans than go to jail for whatever he's got him on tape for. And, he probably has him on tape. Maybe he has him on tape with an underage girl. You don't know. Might not be true. Might just be that it was loans. Might just be he was a depressed guy and he just got too depressed. Or maybe he was dying. Or maybe it's something that has nothing to do with this. But I doubt it. I mean, Epstein was blackmailing people, seemingly. So it seems to me that, the trail caught up with this guy. And when he saw FBI guys sniffing around, he kind of figured, well, I'm not getting out of this one. If he didn't have the millions to defend himself, Epstein, one of the reasons Epstein didn't kill himself, most likely, is because he still had millions of dollars to fight in court, and if you just keep fighting and fighting in court, eventually, even though you might be guilty of sin, you might get some years shaved off just to placate your lawyers who keep coming back again and again and again. I mean, and certainly Epstein had the money to take it all the way to the Supreme Court. And, I think he still had a few plays. At the very least, you'd think he'd keep pushing it and stay in the game long enough that one of the many people he was blackmailing would somehow bail him out. I mean, look at Prince Andrew. What Prince Andrew is going through. First, he did that stupid interview. What a moron. And he looks guilty as hell. Then the Queen and the royal family's like, oh no, you're done. They pull him out of the lineup, which good for them. They should. I mean, they really ought to throw him to the wolves, I think, for what he's done. I think the royal family could really fix their image if they just took Prince Andrew and said, you know what? F this guy. And just threw him to law enforcement with whatever evidence they have and say, you deserve this, Andrew. It's one thing to do some bad stuff when you're a young kid. It's quite another to, hang out with Epstein all the way up until the end. Just about. I mean, he seemingly was still Epstein's friend for a long time, and he doesn't really have a good explanation why. I think the only explanation regarding Prince Andrew is he was probably being blackmailed. He probably figured as long as he stayed and kind of tried to help Epstein, either Epstein would get off somehow, which I think that was just hopeful thinking, and then at the very least, Epstein wouldn't rat him out. If Epstein had lived, then Andrew would be the one guy maybe you'd say, well, I'm not going to rat him out. I mean, he at least tried to help me. So, but I think, the royal family really shouldn't protect him at this point. If they got the evidence, they should throw him under the bus. And I think that would do a lot to rehabilitate the royal family's good name, because then they would say, the royal family's not that bad. They draw a line somewhere. There's somewhere where they'll draw a line and not not tolerate certain things. And really, they shouldn't tolerate, I don't think, this kind of behavior. And now they've got allegedly one of the woman who was forced to have sex, according to her, with Prince Andrew via Epstein. And I mean, it looks really, really, really bad. So yeah, this crazy stuff with Epstein just never seems to end. And I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of it. I'm sure there'll be like 1,000,000 books written on the subject. But maybe one day a video will surface and somebody will put it on the internet and we'll finally see, hey, there's a lot of people involved in this. Some party at his wacky island or whatever. Ugh. Ugly stuff. Ugly stuff. Anyhow, smash like and subscribe if you like me to ramble about anything. Please check it out. Say something in the comments and check out my books, Wokeistan, a Novel, and The Pineys, also available Kindle Unlimited for free.